The Philly and Mare Turf is Grade One. It's the ninth race following the Classic from on the Breeders' Cup card on Saturday. It's run at a mile and 3/8, and this is a three-turn race at Del Mar. And important to note that. We'll look at this field, and you'll see of course, it's replete with Euros. Aiden O'Brien is well represented, as well as Charlie Appleby. You've got Content, a 3-year-old for Aiden O'Brien. You've got Didia, the Argentine, who has been a real nice competitor since coming over to the States. Cinderella's Dream for Charlie Appleby, a nice 3-year-old, as well as Beautiful Love. Full Count Felicia, who won the EP Taylor very impressively up in Canada. And then you've got Soprano, an Irish import who recently ran at a mile and a quarter here. Beach Bomb from South Africa. And, of course, Mare from Canada, one of our favorite fillies. And a couple of Californians to sprinkle in to fill out the field. And we'll look at this one. We'll start with Beautiful Love. This one recently had a third in the Wire Stakes. One of the things I noted was that was a race devoid of pace. I think the fractions were 51 and 116. The race two back, Beautiful Love was much more effective, but also had pace to run to. The class level of either race really wouldn't stack up with the better horses in here. And as a 3-year-old, I'm not real excited about this Charlie Appleby prospect, so I'm going to cut Beautiful Love. Full Count Felicia is very interesting to me for one simple reason. She is the only speed in this race. She's the only one who wants to get to the lead. In the EP Taylor, it was a much smaller field, and there were no other speed horses in that race. And the jockey for Full Count Felicia totally took advantage of it. I believe it might have been KK, Kazushi Kimura, and just bolted to the lead and never looked back. And it was absolutely the right move to make because all the other horses were late runners and weren't going to challenge her. Guess what? You got that here. You got nobody who's really going to want to go out and get Full Count Felicia. It would be a tall order to beat a field of this depth, but at Del Mar with a short stretch and a tight track, it's really intriguing. She's coming off of her biggest race ever, but this one has plenty of back class. She's run against some good horses, and this is a race where, if you look at the field, there's nobody who's really a total standout where you say they're absolutely going to win this race. And there's vulnerability there. So to me, when you have another race shape, similar to one where this horse was ultra impressive and ultra effective and is in good form, why not? And at 12-1, that's a great price. Cinderella's Dream is a 3-year-old running against older, and she's been pretty effective against other 3-year-olds in the States. But that's just it. 3-year-olds in the States, they're no match for what they run in Europe. And now she's going to be facing older horses. And at 4-1, I just don't really like the price. Certainly, this one is talented without a doubt and can get up into the money without a doubt. And maybe even could win the race. But Charlie Appleby, William Buick, they're really hard to fight. But I'm going to do it because I just think this is a pretty big step up in class. And just to me, she's a bit of an underlay. Warlike Goddess, of course, the 7-year-old, the venerable stakes performer. This is one that, she's definitely a competitor, a contender, prime win candidate in this field. And that's why she's at 5-2. There's really not much of a knock on her, except one thing is that she seems like a little bit off the fastball from prior efforts. And again, the race shape and the tight track at Del Mar gives me a little bit of reservation. You certainly have to use Warlike Goddess without a doubt. Bill Mott, Breeders' Cup. And she could very well win this race. But again, we'll go back to that thing. Older horses don't do very well at the Breeders' Cup. I think they're 0 for 56. So there's enough for me to try to use her, but not on top necessarily. Didia has been a really nice performer, the Argentine. She did well in the Breeders' Cup last year. I think she got fourth or fifth on the filly and mare turf. I wonder about her at a mile and 3/8. The distance might be a little far for this one. Yes, she's done well at a mile and a quarter, but against weaker fields. And I just have a feeling that, particularly since her last couple races, the Maybe in particular was a pretty weak effort. I just think, again, this is another one, a little something's off the fastball, and I'm going to let her beat me, and I'm going to let Didia go. Content is very interesting. This is a horse that has run against some really stellar competition over in Europe. Her last two races, obviously nothing to write home about, but keep in mind they were both on soft turf. You get much firmer here where Content has been effective. You get Aidan O'Brien and Frankie Dettori. I think there's a lot of things to like. If you watch that last race, the Champion Filly and Mare Stakes in particular, Content was starting to make a move in the stretch and looked like they had some horse. But again, I think it was more the surface that impeded her ability to compete there. I think on a much better surface here, I think Content could be a contender in here and could even win this race. Don't like 6-1, but I think is one we have to pay attention to. Hang the Moon has just been a new horse since coming to Phil D'Amato. This one has just been an outstanding form for the last three races. And, she's got a really positive record at Del Mar, and I find it very hard to leave this one off. I don't think she can win this race. I think that she's, going to be outclassed. She hasn't been running against much in California, but just really looks like a horse who really is just rounding into the prime form of her career. And the fact that Del Mar is a track she's done well at, I'm going to put in the mix underneath. At 10-1, I'd like a little better price, but I think you'll probably get it. And so Hang the Moon, I think, is one that for underneath in the exotics you have to think about. Anizette's another one who's been very good at Del Mar as a horse for the course. She's been beating up on California horses pretty effectively. Didn't like the Maybe terribly much, or where Hang the Moon got the better of her. But this is one that's kind of hard to overlook. I do wonder about the distance a little bit. But again, she's never gone this far before and has the pedigree to say that it won't be an issue and likes the track. So this is another one at 15-1. I think you can use underneath for your try or your super. Mare is, what can you say? She's really been a special horse. The Beverly D, the Diana, she coming off the bench and she ran a great second. The Beverly D was kind of a small field, and but she did win it, and she did it on what was a speed favoring track that was a little against her to a degree. The E.P. Taylor, nobody was going to get to full count Felicia, but Mara still ran a good race. I think she's in really good form and is too good to overlook, especially with Flavian Pratt in the irons. Mara is one I think you absolutely have to use. Beach Bomb, the South African import. One thing I noticed is this horse hasn't really been stretched out terribly much, and that does give me concern, particularly when running in the Rodeo Drive in California, which was not a good race, and the best she could muster was third. I think this is a pass. Soprano is another one. I wonder about the distance. George Bowie's been on record as saying he thinks she can get it. And yes, she ran in the QE2 Challenge Cup at a mile and a quarter and got second, but was no threat to win the race. Nobody was that day against She Feels Pretty. I'm sorry, that was a mile and an eighth, I think. I just think the distance is an issue to me. If she was really something, I think she would have given She Feels Pretty a lot more of a race. That's just my opinion. And so I'll take my chances. I'm going to let Soprano go. Sunset Glory from Mike McCarthy. This is a horse who's run well at Del Mar and at the distance, but didn't have much in the Rodeo Drive, which again I didn't think was a great race, and I just don't think this horse is good enough, and I'm going to cut. So looking at this field, I'm going with Full Count Felicia. Why not? This is a horse that is in very good form, is the lone speed on a speed favoring track. It's got a short stretch. And we know those 3-turn races, a lot of times, horses on the front end do very well. So I'm willing to take a shot at 12-1. I think you do have a little bit of vulnerability on some of the more prominent horses like Warlike Goddess and Content. And we saw what Full Count Felicia was able to do against Mare, who didn't go out and get her. So maybe they'll learn the lesson and try to do that this time. But as the lone speed, I think she's going to be able to control the race. And with some vulnerability from the more prominent horses, I'll give her a shot. So with our wagering strategy, we're going to bet Full Count Felicia to win. Then we're going to do an exacta key with the 2 on top with 4, 6, and 10. Warlike Goddess, Content, and Mare. Then we'll do a trifecta with 2 on top with 4, 6, 10, 4, 6, 10. And then we'll do kind of a saver trifecta with 2 on top with 4, 6, 10 with 2, 4, 6. And then we'll throw in Hang the Moon and Azette as the later runners who I think, particularly Hang the Moon, I think has got a pretty good shot to get into the money. This is an interesting race. I think it's... I think there's enough here to try to beat Warlike Goddess, and I think Full Count Felicia is the horse who could very well do it. So that's the filly and mare turf. I hope our analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy. We've got a couple more coming, the Dirt Mile and the Sprint. So be on the lookout for those. We'll have those up later today, this being Friday. And if you do like content like this, of course, please like and subscribe. And thanks to all of you who have come on board. That's it from here. I'm looking forward to it. I'm the Breeders' Cup. I know you are. I'm psyched. I think it's going to be a fun 2 days of racing. Can't wait for it to start. So that's it from here. I'll talk to you soon. And until then, be well.